Hello, my name is Timothytrespas, and I am a human being who has found himself targeted, tortured, gang-stalked, electronic harassment, given a disease people are calling Morgellons, made very sick, on and on and on. This has been going on for many, many years, perhaps even since I was a small child. Regardless, it's been a while since I've made a video, and perhaps that's because I'm having such a difficult time getting myself to do these things. A lot has happened in the last month or so. In July, the police came and made everybody vacate the MTA railroad property we were utilizing, as we were unauthorized to utilize the bulkhead. They offered assistance in housing for homeless people. Since we were living on MTA property, there's a program to get people off the subway trains. And we went to those people, BRC, and they were very kind and very helpful, and, you know, offered us, they were going to put me in one place in Brooklyn and her first in the Bronx and then somewhere in Brooklyn, and put Petra somewhere else. And Petra had just come out of the hospital, and, you know, we didn't want to be separated, but I told them, fine, we'll do it. And they said okay, and they, you know, but it never happened. The MTA people turned the application back, saying that, well, they're not living on the subway, so it's not part of our mandate, it's their problem. So we lost the assistance we were getting. They were helping Petra, you know, they were literally going with us to the embassy, going with us to immigration, going with us to, you know, because they wouldn't even let me into immigration. Because they wanted to take off my bracelet, and it's been on for 10 years and it doesn't come off. It was a big nightmare. You have to take off your shoes, your belt, empty your pockets, go through a metal detector. And anyway, so we never got their housing, their assistance. So on the advice of the MTA, we all moved down to the next property. So it's not our problem, right? So I've made contact, a friend with this guy who is the foreman of this job. NBC has bought this property, and they're putting in all windows, and he told me that in 2 months' time they're going to redo their bulkhead wall to the water, and so that means we're all gonna have to go. I said, do you think they'll give us any notice? He said, notice? This is private property. You people aren't supposed to be here. So, no, they probably won't give you any notice. You know, like, get out, that kind of thing. There's a big sign that says no boats, blah, 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 so. I've been looking around for places because we have a very unique situation where we have to go to this stupid thing every day. Well, not every day for me, but for Petra every day. And just there's only a few places we can actually be to get there, riding our bicycles 3.8 to 4, almost 8 miles a day, 6, 7, almost 8 miles a day. And the place that I've found that is the possible next place to go is further down the creek. Doesn't have this beautiful view of Manhattan, and but the water's deep enough. There's a public road that goes into a parking lot of a big company, and cars come and go, trucks come and go, but there isn't a big fence. And there's a pier. It's unused. You know, it's fenced from their property, but it's you can get to it, and it's unused. And the water is supposed to be 9 feet or 12 feet, depending on where you are. It's not a bulkhead wall. It's a pier, so it has pilings, and they're jagged, and, you know, I'm a little concerned about how I'm going to do that. However, there are ways to rig your boat with boards on the tires, big long 2x4, so that you don't go under the pier between the pilings and get crushed under high tide and sink. Anyway, at this point, that's pretty much our only option, unless, you know, I don't know. I find it difficult to believe that these people are going to be working rebuilding a bulkhead wall in December, but what do I know? What do I know? So we're basically in the same situation we were in. However, we don't have these people helping us. We don't have this promise of housing. Now, I still have CUCS helping me, but, you know, so far, now I have to go and get all the documents again that I got the first time for the first, you know. I'm trying to work out this transportation. They have this special transportation for people who are disabled, where you can arrange to have this little bus come and pick you up at a certain time and bring you where you need to go and pick you up. And I got all these forms I gotta fill out. I gotta get the doctor to see me and all this stuff. So you know, we've been here now for the while and the weather's been okay and, you know, whatever, but it's a struggle. Petra is, she's doing better than she was. She's not screaming and yelling and psychotic. Now she's just terrified, like I am. We sort of go through this terror, just for no reason, for every reason. Angst, anxiety, fear, and terror, and I know what it's like. So I'm trying to encourage her to reach out to God, to reach out to Jesus, to reach out to the Holy Spirit, to learn these things, you know, the armor of God, and anything to help her. She's been reading this book. It's called The Imitation of the Sacred Heart of Jesus, and it's a very interesting book written by Reverend Peter Arno, whatever, a bunch of years ago. His meditations about this, how one can emulate that Sacred Heart of Jesus, and he goes into it in great deal. It's really quite an interesting read. Difficult, plodding, long, but it's got some really good stuff in there. And so what else has happened? Well, all these people moved all their boats down here. We're all waiting for the next thing where we gotta go. We don't know what's gonna happen, and you know, I may be one of the few people that can go to this other place. I don't know whether it's gonna work or not. I don't want to lose my home, such as it is. I may be homeless, but I have a roof over my head. I'm dry. I'm going to be warm if I can help it. You know, I have running water in my sink. I fixed water running. I have now, you know, I got a stove. I got a little bed. Oh, I just spilled my coffee. I even have a where is it? There it is. A little thing to do my duty. And, it probably won't work in the winter time because of the cold and freezing, but I don't know. Anyhow, so one of the things that happened in the last month or so is I was walking around up there on the grass one night. This was back when all the boats were there. It was about 2 in the morning. I was going back and forth in my dinghy. I was looking and trying to prepare to move the boats and figure out what's going on and whatever. And I'm standing there and I hear from across the way, crack! This report of a small arms fire. And I hear the echo of it go, and before the echo died away, I hear zip, this thing zip by my head, literally. And it took me about 3 breaths to realize that someone has just shot at me from across the water. And I look, I don't see anybody. I'm like, well, what am I gonna do? There's nothing you can do. They didn't shoot again. So I don't think they were actually trying to shoot me personally, other than, you know, who knows what or why. But the Lord works in mysterious ways, and I really don't want to ever have to. Supposedly you don't hear the bullet that hits you, but I will never forget that sound. This tumbling piece of something. Anyway, that was one of the things that happened. Let's see what else happened. We were trying to do our laundry one week, and because they put now security guards in here, we can't just pass through the hole in the fence and go to the laundromat with the Kinderwagen to do the laundry every 2 weeks. So I decided, let's take the boat, and we went. And I started the boat and untied everything, and we went down there, past the bridge, a little bit further on the left-hand side. There's a little, what do you call it? It's a thing in the park for kayaks and canoes to launch. And boats aren't supposed to go there, but we tied up to the wall next to it, and we climbed over, and we took the laundry. And while we were doing the laundry, there was some guy there drinking whatever. I talked to him, I bought him a beer, and you know, he said, I'll watch out for your boat. And the police came. There was another sailboat there too, and the police were like, I wasn't there, but the guy told me, the police said, you gotta go, blah, blah, blah. And they asked the guy, whose boat is this? And he told them, hey, leave him alone. He's a nice guy, they're just doing their laundry and they'll be gone soon. They were like, yeah, well, okay, and they left. And so I came back and he told me the story. I was going with my cart and my 5-gallon tanks to get gasoline, because there's a gas station on the other side of the bridge. And then I was going with my 5-gallon water bucket, and I found some guy that had a bar. It was on the street, and I said, excuse me, and he said, yeah, and he filled it up for me. Thank you so much, sir, and dragged it home in the boat. So then when I was starting the boat finally to go home, I always opened the big engine thing here, and I try to start the boat. You know, there's all kind of stuff you got to do. You can't see it now because it's all wrapped up, but you know, you start it and it cranks, and when it gets going, so I come back here and I look to make sure, and I, you know, thankfully God was merciful and tapped me on the shoulder, and I noticed that this black hose, which was once connected to this water intake gate valve, it's called, was flat, crushed. And I said, oh no, and I ran over and turned off the engine and took off the, disconnected and turned on the water, and looked, and there was no water coming in. And so it was obvious to me that we had gone, and as we were going, there was a bunch of debris, plastic and crap in the water, and we went over it, and I imagined that a bag got sucked into my intake. The problem is that even when you take the hose off, you open the gate valve and you stick a piece of metal down there, or a dowel or whatever, because it's a 1-inch opening, you can't poke the thing free because there's a plate under there with holes in it and an opening in the front, so it goes in the right angle, and this thing got all sucked up in there, and I haven't been able to pull any out, and I haven't been able to poke it out, and I keep poking and poking, hoping that maybe the current of the tide or something, but no. So what I did is I found a piece of hose I had in the boat. It was a 1/2-inch hose, and I just ran it over the edge of the boat into the water with a weight on it, and ran it into the cooling system, and we managed to limp home. Thank God we didn't have to go very far, and I didn't have to run the engine very hard. I kept it just slightly over idle, you know, like a 1,000 RPM. So then what I did is, since I haven't been able to get that thing working, I took the only thing I could afford was this cheap vinyl hose. It's not what you're supposed to use. You're supposed to use hose that won't collapse under pressure, but it's very expensive, like $5 a foot, and, you know, so I got a big drill bit, and I drilled a big 1.5-inch hole in the side of the boat there, and I had this pipe going in the water with a piece of stainless steel to hold it down, and there's a piece of copper pipe on there holding it in the water, and you can actually extend it in a little more, so if it gets choppy and such, hopefully it won't just suck air. Now, when I got back, I tried to start the boat the next day. I turned the key, it went click, and then the battery indicator went to 0, and you turn the key off and it wouldn't go back, so I had to go run and turn. Under here there's a battery selector thing, then I had to turn that off and change it to the other battery. I try it again, click, it stays there when you turn it on. I'm like, oh no, dear God. So I go through, you know, everything. What could it be? That battery, the starter, the solenoid, the key, the this, the that. Turns out it was the water pump. Now the water pump is this $450 bronze. Oh, you can see it in here. It's behind here. It's this thing. And it's back here, this bronze thing. And this wheel turns because of the belts of the motor. It's connected also to the alternator, and this wheel turns around and back there, and these hoses suck the water through. And inside of the pump there's something called an impeller, which is this big round rubber thing with these veins on it. And it has to fit right in there and spin when the thing turns it, and that's what drives the water through, is the changing shape of the impeller, because it has something in there that makes it compress and pop. Anyway, would not turn. So obviously the something, you know, running the impeller with half the water might have made it expand, you know, because if you don't have any cooling water coming in, the impeller will melt and burn, catch on fire, and the little parts will all go into your cooling system, and you got to take it all apart and flush it out and replace the impeller. Anyway, took the pump apart. Exhausting, all this. Took the pump apart and looked at the impeller and discovered it wasn't even the right impeller for that particular pump. It was really hard to figure out exactly what size. I had to get my measuring calipers and all this. Figure out what I have this thing. I have a inner and outer diameter. Anyway, so I'm looking online, all these impellers and all these companies. It turns out that they used a different company impeller. They used a, I don't know, whatever. And so the impellers are anywhere from, you know, $30 to $400, depending on how big it is. And I didn't even have any money, so I took the impeller and I took my Dremel tool and I got all this black stuff all over me, and I'm grinding it down and grind it down and get it to just so it turns inside of this pump. And so then I get it in there and I lubricate the pump with dish soap, and I put it all together and I hook up and I turn it on, and it goes blah, 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 no water. I'm like, oh, turn it off. Oh no, what's the matter? It's not sucking. So I use as much, and I siphon the water from the ocean. Of course, I get it in my mouth, and this water is really not clean. I was sick for a few days after that, but I sucked the water in and I hooked it up, and then I poured more water into the pump to prime it. It's supposed to be self-priming, but hey, you know, and I got it to work. So, and it was working and cooling the engine, and I still haven't managed to clean out that thing, so, you know, but at least we can still move the boat. I don't know what else to say. There's a million things, and life just seems to be, you know, continually throwing stuff at us. I'll tell you more in the next video. Thanks for watching. God bless you all.